One of the areas where I can be called in is where a negotiation has stalled, and I'm not so much helping with the detail of the negotiation, but the personality side and the behavioral side, and how to communicate with the person or the people across the table. Because so often people get stalled in the detail. They think this is the only thing on the table. And
Yeah.
it's like they reach a stalemate, where I'm helping them to communicate with the person and to realize you may actually have a lot more in common with the person. And if you get to know them and what their real interests are, what their real motivation is, then you may find there's a lot more potentially on the table than either of you has realized.
Well, I think that that's a huge point because, in my, limited experience of doing deals, certainly the type of deals I do would be much smaller deals in comparison to perhaps, a Fortune 500 company for sure. But in my own experience, what I've learned is that there is the details of the deal. There is the deal itself. And most commonly, the deals are done more on a relationship level than the offer or the details of the deal itself. Anytime that I've kind of done a deal based on the data alone, the deal is usually pretty weak, and doesn't kind of back out over time. But when a deal is kind of done on more of a relationship level, it seems to just kind of go very, very, very well and last substantially longer and be a lot more lucrative for all involved. So I think that everything that you just mentioned there, including this skill, this ability to kind of move beyond the details, the offer itself, and really kind of get into the relationship side of things, must be so powerful for deal making.
Yeah, and it's to recognize that not everybody is open to that one either. For example, the incumbent president of the US, he's known as a deal maker, but he rarely does more than one deal in the same place, because he tends to be very direct, almost you could say antagonistic in his deal making process. So he burns a lot of bridges, and that's just using him as an example of somebody who's not about relationship. It's about getting his way in the deal, but it doesn't present him with many opportunities to do a second deal in the same location, which might actually be more lucrative.
To kind of break down the relationship kind of bonding process that can and should take place during, a deal of some description. Is it really, it sounds like it's a lot more than just aligning yourself with the way that the other person likes to be spoken to. We spoke a moment ago about, speaking with somebody that's very detail orientated. Well, if you speak to that person in a very detail orientated manner, that doesn't necessarily trigger, a kind of a bond between you two, or does it, Joseph?
Not in itself, no,
Yeah.
not in itself.
Yeah.
But that's where I typically work with people to help them prepare for meeting the person as opposed to simply the deal.
Yeah.
So I will go through a process with them. I'm looking at identifying who they're going to be dealing with, who they're going to be negotiating with, and do a profile of that person. So we'll be looking at identifying their personality, their characteristics, as opposed to simply whether they're more detail oriented, etc.
So if you enjoyed this clip and you'd like to benefit from more monetization secrets, go and register now for Monetization Daily. You can go to monetizationresearch.com to get it. It is a free newsletter that is absolutely awesome. It is delivered to your email inbox, and it contains lots of great monetization tips, tactics, and strategies that you will love. Again, head on over to monetizationresearch.com to get it now.